At Christmas dinner, my mother Judith looked at me in front of everyone and laughed. Not a polite laugh, a cruel, loud laugh that made the whole table go silent. Then she pointed at me and said, "You contribute nothing to this family. Absolutely nothing." My sister Vivian smirked. My brother-in-law Marcus kept eating like I wasn't even there. My father Ronald stared at his plate like a coward. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I smiled, set down my fork, and said, "Then I'll stop paying your rent." My father's fork hit the floor. "What rent?" he said. "We own this house." My mother's face turned white. Her hands started shaking. She looked at my father like she wanted him to say something, but he couldn't. Because he knew. He knew exactly what I was talking about. For 3 years, I had been secretly paying $2,800 every single month to keep their house from being taken by the bank. My mother had no idea, but my father did. And he sat there for 3 years while she called me useless, while she praised my sister, while she gave me nothing but insults at every family gathering. That night, I walked out the door and never looked back. By New Year's Day, my parents were packing boxes and searching for apartments. My name is Celine, and this is the story of how my family lost everything because they forgot who was really keeping them afloat. Christmas at the Quinn house always looked perfect from the outside. Big tree in the window, lights wrapped around the porch, the smell of turkey and pie drifting through the cold December air. Neighbors probably thought we were the happiest family on the street. They were wrong. Growing up, I was the invisible one. My older sister Vivienne was the star. She was beautiful, popular, smart, and everyone loved her. My mother Judith treated her like royalty. Whatever Vivienne wanted, Vivienne got. New clothes, expensive vacations, a brand new car for her 16th birthday. Me? I got hand-me-downs and silence. When I brought home a report card with all B's and 1 A, my mother sighed and said, "Why can't you be more like Vivienne?" She didn't say good job. She didn't say she was proud. She just reminded me that I would never be good enough. My father, Ronald, never defended me. He just sat there, reading his newspaper, pretending he didn't hear. I used to think he was quiet. Now I know he was weak. The only person who ever truly loved me was my grandmother, Nana Ruth. She was the only one who saw me. She used to pull me aside and whisper, "Don't listen to them, sweetheart. You're going to do great things." When she died, 2 years before that Christmas, I lost the only family member who actually cared about me. By 16, I knew I couldn't count on anyone but myself. I got a job, saved every dollar, worked 2 jobs through community college while Vivian went to a fancy university on my parents' dime. They spent $60,000 on her education. When I asked for help, my mother laughed and said, "Money is tight. You'll figure it out." I figured it out. I built a business. By 30, I was making $180,000 a year, but my family had no idea. They still thought I was struggling. They still thought I was a failure, and I let them believe it. Then came the phone call that changed everything. 3 years before that Christmas, my father called me at midnight. He was crying. He said they were about to lose the house. My mother had been hiding massive credit card debt. They had refinanced twice and couldn't make the payments anymore. The bank was threatening foreclosure. He begged me for help. I said yes. One condition. My mother could never know. For 3 years, I sent $2,800 every single month. That's $108 to save their home. And for 3 years, my mother kept calling me useless. She kept praising Vivian. She kept treating me like I was nothing. My father thanked me in private, but said nothing when she insulted me in public. He watched her tear me down over and over again and never once opened his mouth. I told myself it was enough that he knew. I told myself family was family. I told myself things would get better. I was so wrong. If you're watching this, make sure to subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from right now. Section 4, the turning point, decision or action taken. For a moment, I didn't move. I just sat there feeling my mother's words echo in my head. "You contribute nothing. You're useless. You always have been." I had heard her say cruel things to me my entire life, but this was different. This was in front of everyone. This was on Christmas. And this was after I had spent 3 years secretly keeping her roof over her head. Something shifted inside me. It was like a switch flipped. For 32 years, I had been the good daughter. The quiet one, the one who took the insults and swallowed the pain, the one who never fought back because fighting back meant losing the little scraps of family I had left. But sitting there, holding a used candle while my sister wore her new diamond bracelet, I realized something. I had already lost. I had lost a long time ago. There was nothing left to protect. There was no relationship to save. My mother had made that clear. So why was I still pretending? I looked around the room. Vivienne was still smiling, enjoying the show. Marcus was scrolling through his phone like this was just another boring family moment. My father was staring at his hands, refusing to look at me. He knew what I had done for them. He knew I had saved their house, and he said nothing. He just sat there like a coward while my mother called me useless. That hurt more than anything she said. I could handle my mother's cruelty. I had been handling it my whole life, but my father's silence was a betrayal I wasn't prepared for. I took a slow breath. I set down the used candle on the coffee table. I picked up my wine glass and took a long sip. Everyone was watching me now. They expected me to cry. They expected me to run to the bathroom and hide like I always did. They expected me to take it and stay silent. But I was done being what they expected. I smiled. My mother looked confused. "What are you smiling about?" she asked. Her voice was sharp, annoyed, like my reaction wasn't the one she wanted. I set my wine glass down and looked directly at her. "You're right, Mom." The room went quiet. Even Marcus looked up from his phone. "Excuse me?" my mother said. I said, "You're right. I contribute nothing to this family. So I'm going to stop." My mother laughed. "Stop what? You don't do anything anyway." I turned to my father. He was pale. He knew what was coming. I could see it in his eyes. The fear, the guilt, the realization that 3 years of secrets were about to explode. "Dad," I said calmly, "I think it's time we tell Mom the truth." He shook his head slightly. "Celine, please, don't do this." "Tell me what?" my mother demanded. She looked between us, her eyes narrowing. "What is she talking about, Ronald?" My father said nothing. He just stared at the floor, like a child caught stealing. I pulled out my phone. I opened my banking app. I scrolled to the transfer history and turned the screen toward my mother. 3 years ago, Dad called me at midnight. He was crying. He told me you were about to lose this house because of credit card debt you had been hiding. He told me the bank was threatening foreclosure. He begged me to help. My mother's face changed. The smugness disappeared. Something like fear crept into her eyes. I agreed to send $2,800 every month to cover the mortgage payments. The only condition was that you would never find out. Dad promised to keep it a secret. I scrolled through the transfers. Month after month, year after year. $2,800 in November, $2,800 in December, $2,800 in January. On and on and on. That's $108,000, Mom. $100,000. I paid that to keep this roof over your head, while you called me useless, while you compared me to Vivian, while you gave me a used candle for Christmas. My mother grabbed the phone from my hand. She stared at the screen. Her hands were shaking. She looked at my father with a fury I had never seen before. "Is this true?" she hissed. My father nodded slowly. He couldn't even speak. "You knew about this? For 3 years? And you didn't tell me?" "I had no choice," he whispered. "We were going to lose everything." My mother threw my phone onto the couch. She turned back to me, her face red with anger. But I could see something else behind the anger. Shame, embarrassment, fear. "You think you can hold this over my head?" she shouted. "You think this makes you better than us?" I shook my head. "No, Mom. I don't think I'm better than anyone. I just think I'm done." "Done with what?" I stood up slowly. I grabbed my coat from the chair. I looked at my father one last time. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. "Done being your secret ATM," I said. "Done being the one who saves you while you spit in my face. The January payment is canceled. And every payment after that. You're on your own now." My mother's face went white. "You can't do that." "I can. And I am." I walked toward the door. Behind me, I could hear the chaos starting. My mother screaming at my father. Vivian asking what was happening. Marcus suddenly interested now that money was involved. The kids crying in the other room because of all the shouting. I didn't look back. I opened the front door and stepped into the cold December air. The snow was falling gently. The Christmas lights on the porch were still twinkling. Everything looked so peaceful outside, so different from the explosion happening inside. I got into my car. I sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. I could still hear muffled yelling from inside the house. I waited for the guilt to hit me. I waited for the regret, but it never came. All I felt was relief, like a weight I had been carrying for 32 years had finally been lifted off my shoulders. I started the engine. I pulled out of the driveway, and I drove away into the cold Christmas night, leaving my family to face the consequences of their own cruelty. For the first time in my life, I chose myself, and it felt like freedom. The day of Christmas dinner, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. I almost didn't go. I sat on the edge of my bed for 20 minutes, staring at my phone, trying to convince myself that this year would be different. It had been 3 years since I started saving their house. 3 years of secret payments. 3 years of silence. Maybe my father had finally told my mother the truth. Maybe she had softened. Maybe things had changed. I was lying to myself. I spent 2 hours getting ready. I wanted to look good. Not for them, but for me. I put on a dress I had bought with my own money. I did my hair. I even bought expensive gifts for everyone. A cashmere scarf for my mother. A luxury watch for my father. A designer handbag for Vivian. Premium whiskey for Marcus. Toys for their kids. I spent over $600 total. I wrapped every gift carefully and loaded them into my car. The drive to my parents' house took 2.5 hours. I spent the whole drive telling myself to stay calm. Don't react. Don't let her get to you. Just get through dinner and go home. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw Vivian's shiny SUV already parked in front. Her husband Marcus was standing on the porch, checking his phone. Their kids were running around the yard in matching designer outfits. Everything looked perfect, like a Christmas card, like a family that had it all together. I grabbed the gifts, took a deep breath, and walked to the front door. My mother opened it before I could knock. She looked me up and down like she was inspecting livestock. She didn't say hello, she didn't say Merry Christmas. She didn't even smile. The first words out of her mouth were, "You're late." Looked at my phone. It was 6:03. I was 3 minutes late because of traffic. "I got stuck behind an accident on the highway," I said. She rolled her eyes. "Your sister was here an hour early to help me cook, but I suppose that's too much to expect from you." She turned and walked inside without waiting for me. The house looked beautiful. Decorations everywhere. A huge Christmas tree covered in lights and ornaments. The table was set with the fancy china that only came out once a year. Candles were lit. Christmas music was playing softly in the background. Looked like something out of a magazine. But underneath all the beauty, I could already feel the tension. Vivienne was sitting at the table next to my mother. She looked perfect, as always. Her blonde hair was styled like she had just come from a salon. Her makeup was flawless. She was wearing a red dress that probably cost more than my rent. When she saw me, she gave me that smile. The smile that looked friendly, but wasn't. The smile that said, "I'm better than you and everyone knows it." Marcus was already seated at the head of the table opposite my father. He barely looked up from his phone when I walked in. My mother pointed to a chair at the far end of the table. "Sit there." It was almost at the kids' table, as far from her as possible. I said nothing. I just sat down. Dinner started well enough. The turkey was perfect. The mashed potatoes were creamy. The wine was flowing. Everyone was talking and laughing. Everyone except me. No one asked me how I was doing. No one asked about my work. No one asked about my life. I sat at the end of the table like a ghost, like I wasn't even there. I watched my mother fuss over Vivian. I watched my father avoid my eyes. I watched Marcus brag about how much money he spent on their new kitchen renovation. I watched the kids make a mess while everyone laughed at how adorable they were. And I sat in silence, eating my food, counting the minutes until I could leave. Then my mother turned her attention to me. "So, Celine," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "are you still doing that little computer thing?" I swallowed my food. "It's a consulting business, Mom." She waved her hand dismissively. "Whatever. Is it even making money?" I felt my jaw tighten. "It's doing fine." Vivian laughed. "Fine doesn't sound very impressive." My mother nodded. "Your sister just got promoted to senior director. What are you doing with your life?" I took a breath. "I'm doing well, Mom." She shook her head. "When are you going to buy a house? You're still living in that tiny apartment, aren't you? Your sister owns a beautiful home. Her husband provides for her. What do you have? I didn't answer. I just kept eating. But inside, I was screaming. Then came the gifts. I handed out all the presents I had brought. Vivian opened her designer bag and smiled. Oh, this is beautiful. Thanks, sis. At least someone appreciated it. Marcus opened his whiskey, nodded once, and went back to his phone. My father opened his watch and looked at me with something like guilt in his eyes. Thank you, sweetheart, he said quietly. Then my mother opened her cashmere scarf. She held it up, looked at it for 2 seconds, and said, "Oh, it's nice." That was it. It's nice. Not thank you. Not I love it. Just, it's nice. Then it was my turn. My mother handed me a small box wrapped in recycled paper. I opened it slowly. Inside was a candle. A half-used candle with the wick already burned down. I stared at it. I looked at her. I had an extra one lying around, she said. Thought you could use it for that little apartment of yours. Vivian received a diamond bracelet from our parents. I received a used candle. I felt something crack inside me. 3 years of payments, $800, and she gave me a used candle. I forced a smile. Thanks, Mom. But inside, something was dying, or maybe something was finally waking up. After the gifts, we moved to the living room. Marcus kept bragging about their kitchen renovation. $50,000, he said. All custom cabinets, Italian marble countertops. My mother was impressed. Vivienne was glowing. And then my mother launched her final attack. She stood up in the middle of the room. She looked around at everyone like she was about to give a speech. Then she pointed directly at me. You know what I realized this year? She said. You contribute nothing to this family. The room went quiet. Your sister helps me, visits me, calls me every week. And you sit in your little apartment doing your little internet thing and give us nothing. Absolutely nothing. You're useless, Celine. You always have been. Vivian smiled. Marcus scrolled his phone. My father stared at his lap. And me. I felt something snap, but I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't run away. I smiled, and that smile was the beginning of the end for all of them. The drive home felt different. The roads were quiet. Snow was falling softly against my windshield. Christmas lights flickered in every house I passed. Families were inside, laughing, opening presents, enjoying each other, and I was alone in my car, driving away from the only family I had ever known. But I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel empty. I felt awake, like I had been sleeping my whole life and finally opened my eyes. My phone started buzzing before I even reached the highway. First it was my father, then my mother, then Vivian, then numbers I didn't recognize. I didn't answer any of them. I just kept driving. The buzzing didn't stop. Text after text, voicemail after voicemail. I turned my phone to silent and tossed it onto the passenger seat. Whatever they had to say could wait. Or maybe it couldn't wait. Maybe their whole world was falling apart right now. But that wasn't my problem anymore. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my couch in the dark. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't play music. I just sat there, letting the silence wrap around me. For the first time in years, my mind was quiet. No guilt, no anxiety, no wondering if I was doing enough. I had given them everything, and they had given me nothing but pain. Now it was over. The next morning, I finally checked my phone. 47 missed calls. Over 60 text messages. I scrolled through them slowly, reading each one with a strange sense of calm. My father's messages were desperate. Celine, please call me back. We need to talk. I'm so sorry. Please don't do this. We can work something out. I'll make it right, I promise. Please, sweetheart, please. My mother's messages were different. No apology. No remorse. Just anger. How dare you embarrass me in front of everyone? You had no right to say those things. You owe this family an apology. Call me immediately. I almost laughed. She still didn't get it. Even after everything, she still thought I was the one who owed her something. Vivian's messages were short and confused. What the hell happened last night? Mom is losing her mind. Dad won't stop crying. What did you do? I didn't respond to any of them. I just put my phone down and made myself breakfast. The week between Christmas and New Year's was chaos. My phone never stopped ringing. My father left voicemail after voicemail, each one more desperate than the last. He explained that my mother was furious, that she wasn't speaking to him, that the whole family was falling apart. He begged me to reconsider. He promised things would change. He swore he would make my mother apologize, but I had heard promises from him before. 3 years of promises, and none of them meant anything. My mother sent me a long email on December 28th. I read it twice just to make sure I understood it correctly. She didn't apologize for calling me useless. She didn't thank me for saving her house. She didn't admit she was wrong. Instead, she blamed me. She said I had humiliated her in front of the family. She said I had destroyed Christmas. She said I was selfish and ungrateful and cruel. She demanded that I resume the payments immediately and never speak of this again. She ended the email by saying that if I didn't comply, she would tell everyone in the family that I was a liar who made up stories for attention. I read that email 3 times. Then I deleted it. There was nothing left to say. On January 1st, I woke up to a new year and a new beginning. I made coffee. I watched the snow fall outside my window. I thought about all the years I had spent trying to earn my mother's love, all the sacrifices I had made, all the pain I had swallowed, and I realized something important. I had been chasing something that never existed. My mother was never going to love me the way I needed to be loved. She was never going to see my worth. She was never going to change. And that wasn't my fault. It was hers. 2 weeks later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from the bank, a foreclosure notice, addressed to my parents. They had 60 days to catch up on their payments, or the house would be taken. I held that letter in my hands for a long time. For a moment, I felt a flicker of guilt, a small voice in my head saying, maybe I should help. Maybe I should call. Maybe I should fix this one more time. But then I remembered the used candle. I remembered my mother's laugh. I remembered her pointing at me and calling me useless in front of everyone. And I put the letter in the shredder. By March, my parents had lost the house. I heard about it from a cousin who still talked to me. She said they had to move into a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. She said my mother was devastated. She said my father looked like he had aged 10 years. She said Vivian refused to help them because Marcus didn't want the financial burden. The golden child disappeared the moment things got hard. I wasn't surprised. My father called me one last time in April. His voice was broken, tired, old. I'm sorry, Celine. I'm so sorry for everything. I should have stood up for you. I should have told your mother the truth years ago. I was a coward, and I lost my daughter because of it. I listened to him cry. I listened to him apologize over and over again. And for the first time, I believed him. I forgive you, Dad, I said quietly. But I can't save you anymore. You have to figure this out on your own. He cried harder. I understand. I love you, sweetheart. I love you too, Dad. Goodbye. I hung up the phone, and I finally let go. It has been 2 years since that Christmas dinner. 2 years since I walked out of my parents' house and never looked back. And I can honestly say, my life has never been better. My business grew beyond anything I imagined. I hired a small team. I doubled my income. I bought a house of my own. A real house with a backyard and a home office and room for a family someday. I paid for it myself. Every single penny. No one helped me. No one saved me. I saved myself. I met someone last year. His name is Daniel. He is kind and patient, and he treats me like I matter. When I told him about my family, he didn't pity me. He didn't try to fix things. He just held my hand and said, "You deserved better, and now you have it." He would never sit silent while someone called me useless. He would never let anyone treat me like I was invisible. For the first time in my life, I know what real love feels like, and it feels nothing like what I grew up with. My father and I talk sometimes. Not often. Maybe once every few months. He apologized again and again. Real apologies. Genuine regret. He admitted he was weak. He admitted he failed me. He said losing me was the biggest mistake of his life. I appreciate his honesty, but I keep my distance. I forgave him, but I will never forget. Some wounds heal, but the scars remain. My mother never apologized. Not once. She sent me a letter about 6 months after they lost the house. I thought maybe she had finally come around. Maybe she finally understood what she had done. But the letter was full of blame. She called me selfish. She called me cruel. She said I destroyed the family because I couldn't handle a little criticism. She said she hoped I was happy with myself. I read that letter once, then I burned it. I never responded. I never will. Vivienne reached out once. She wanted to reconnect. She said, "Family is family, and we should move past everything." I asked her one question. "Did you ever defend me when Mom attacked me?" Did you ever stand up for me once in 32 years? She didn't answer. I told her we had nothing to talk about. She blocked me after that. I didn't care. Here is what I learned from all of this. Family is not just blood. Family is how people treat you. Family is loyalty and respect and love that doesn't come with conditions. My mother gave me none of that. She gave me used candles and insults. And 32 years of feeling like I wasn't good enough. I gave her $100,000 and my entire childhood trying to earn her love. And she still called me useless. Some people will never see your worth no matter how much you sacrifice for them. And when you realize that, you have two choices. You can keep giving until you have nothing left. Or you can walk away and finally start living for yourself. I chose to walk away, and that choice saved my life. If you are watching this and you see yourself in my story, I want you to know something. You are not useless. You are not invisible. You are not less than. The people who make you feel that way are the problem, not you. And you have every right to walk away from anyone who refuses to see your value, even if they are family, especially if they are family. That is my story. That is my lesson. And if my mother is watching this, I hope that used candle was worth losing your daughter forever. If this story touched your heart, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss another video. Drop a comment below and tell me where you are watching from. What city are you in right now? I love reading your comments and connecting with all of you from around the world. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. And remember, you are enough. You always have been.